Okay, welcome to episode 16 of the Kayvman Show. Today we are going to do a quick one, no pun intended. We're talking about sprinting and other various forms of speed work, but primarily sprinting. So this is part of the training block of podcasts, and hopefully this one will be short and sweet. And essentially what we are saying here, what the take home, I'll give it to you straight away, is everyone should be sprinting. Kids, adults, elderly, men, women, fat, skinny, doesn't matter. No matter what your goal is, if you're trying to put on muscle or burn fat, you should be sprinting at least every week. Sprinting is the foundational, most primal, most basic form of exercise. If you look at a baby learns to crawl, then he learns to walk. At that stage, crawling is exercise. And then when they progress a little bit further, walking is exercise. That's where my youngest son is now. Walking is exercise. That's building muscle. But once you become an adult, walking is no longer exercise. It doesn't strain your body enough. It doesn't build any muscle. It doesn't stress your body enough. So sprinting becomes your foundational primal form of exercise. And it works every single muscle in your body, pretty much. If you look at, for me, what the ideal body type is a sprinter. Sprinter is pretty heavily muscled, very, very lean, generally an elite sprinter, and perfectly balanced. And the key to understanding why sprinting is so important is type 2 fast twitch muscle fibers. Fast twitch muscle fibers are really crucial. In a heavily muscled person, they're generally going to have more fast twitch muscle fibers. Lifting heavy weights works fast twitch muscle fibers. Even if you're lifting them slowly, you need to recruit fast twitch muscle fibers to lift heavy weights. And so building a lot of muscle is going to stimulate fast twitch muscle fibers preferentially. And generally people who are genetically predisposed to have a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers in their body are going to put on more muscle, generally speaking. So that's the first component of sprinting. It will build a lot of muscle because it allows you to stimulate those fast twitch muscle fibers, which will then go on to be built larger. So it will stimulate hypertrophy indirectly as well as directly. So it will build muscle itself, and it will allow you to build muscle later on, which is why heavily muscled people are usually quite fast. If you look at the NFL, I was watching some Sunday football yesterday, and I was looking at some of these guys, and they do not look like the cliche of a heavily muscled person, is that they're slow. I was looking at some of these guys, I think they were defensive linesmen, someone for the Cleveland Browns. His biceps were absolutely massive. It was crazy to think that this guy was a high-level athlete who needed that body, that he wouldn't have those muscles if they didn't help him, right? And an offensive lineman needs to be quick off the mark. He doesn't even get to a full sprint. He just needs to be quick. You're going to get 3 seconds to make that sack or to make that block. So you need acceleration type of speed as opposed to just top speed. And he still had insane amount of muscle on his frame. So having that muscle does make you more athletic. This idea that lots of muscle, makes you unathletic or, doesn't help for everyday life activities or high level sports, and that muscle can be a deficit to you, is not true. We've already spoke about how large muscles will help boost your metabolism and help with fat loss, but it really increases your athleticism too. And yes, I'm taking a point from a high-level athlete here that you're never going to be realistically. If you're listening to this podcast, you are probably not going to be offensive lineman for the Cleveland Browns. But it's really important to have that athleticism, and that's the second point, is why, if it makes you much more athletic, why is it so important to be athletic through your lifetime? And that's because it stops you from getting old, right? If you look at old people, what's the one thing that makes someone look old or be old physically is, we're not talking about mentally, but there's probably some benefit to that, but physically they're slow. They walk slowly. I was looking at Biden the other day, and I was looking at how much he'd aged, President Biden, and how much he'd aged throughout his 4 years as president. And I'm not trying to get political here, but he aged tremendously fast. probably because of the stresses and lack of sleep and all the issues that people have as presidents. As all presidents age pretty quickly, but he aged really dramatically. And it was that he was so physically slow. He took these tiny, small steps and everything looked labored. And I guarantee he's not doing sprint work. Sprinting will keep you young because those fast-twitch muscle fibers are kind of the hallmark of youth. So it's really, sprinting is the fountain of youth. It will keep you young. It will keep you athletic. I was playing soccer yesterday with a bunch of guys, and I was looking at, and some of these guys are older guys, and I was looking around, and I was watching them kind of shuffle along and jog along, and I was realizing these guys can't sprint anymore. And it's probably because they don't train that sprinting. That's a little bit extreme, but what I will say is that you can at the very least soften the blow of aging via sprinting. It will keep or build muscle on your frame, stop you from getting old. And it just feels really good. Going for an all-out sprint at least once a week, your body just feels, because all your muscle fibers are stimulated. When you do a full sprint, your upper body, your lower body, everything is stimulated. And it's very low impact too. Sprinting without the deceleration component is not really going to make you sore, so you can train a little bit harder and recover a little bit faster from it. It's not going to take a tremendous amount of recovery after. So it's something that everyone should be doing at least once a week. Add this into your workout at least once a week. You should be sprinting once a week. Sports like if you're playing basketball, if you're playing soccer, you're probably good in terms of your sprinting, but basketball, you really need to be playing full court, not half court. That's going to be a lot of agility, but you're not going to get into an all-out sprint at all. If you do not play those sports, just jump on a treadmill. The way I like to do sprinting is instead of running really fast and then jogging, I don't like that because you're not getting a high enough arc, right? Because you're jogging, your recovery is not going low enough to get that sprint back, okay? So for me, the way I like to do sprinting is if you find a treadmill, I like to stick it on incline at first because sprinting on an incline actually helps teach you proper mechanics. I'm not going to get too far into the biomechanics, but sprinting on an incline particularly is fantastic. So if you can find a hill and just sprint up a hill and then walk down it and sprint up a hill and walk down it, that works. If you want to do it indoor, a treadmill is brilliant because you can see how fast you're running and you can increase that over time. So the way I like to do it is put it on a sprint, not a jog, a sprint, right? So that your arms are physically moving up, your hip flexors are stretched, your knees driving up. Right, that's how I define a sprint, is the range of motion of your limbs. That's what I define as a sprint. So make sure you're sprinting and sprint for 10 minimum, 20 seconds max. Anything more than that is just a fast run. So a sprint is going to be from 10 to 20 seconds. And then for the rest of the minute, you rest. And you do that at least 3, preferably 5, up to 10, maybe 15. If you really want, you can push it to 20 sprints, which would be 20 minutes of sprinting. So sprint for 10, 20 seconds. Then instead of jogging, you just put your feet on the side. You get your recovery, get full recovery. And then when the minute starts again, boom, you sprint 10 to 20 seconds. Do that every minute on the minute for anywhere between 3, probably 5, all the way up to 15 or 20 sprints. Try and get a little bit of incline in there and vary it. If you're going to do more than once a week, play with 10-second sprints, play with 15-second sprints, play with 20-second sprints. If you want to switch it up and make this really fun, you can throw a heavy-weighted vest on there. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. But yeah, get your sprinting in at least once a week. That's the take home for this, and then see what happens to your body. Peace.